Celebrate the 245th birthday of the United States for Independence Day, I have to wonder, are we really free?
Be strong.
For years as a kid, I remember looking forward to the 4th of July. It was a time of family get-togethers, cookouts, and fireworks. And of course, it was something that we learned about in school. It took place during the American Revolution and was the legal separation from the 13 colonies from Great Britain on July 2nd, 1776. Yada, yada, yada. Then a couple days later, on the 4th of July, the approving and signing of the Declaration of Independence took place. Unfortunately, we all know the ills of slavery and the atrocities that took place as this young country began to be built. On July 5th, 1852, Frederick Douglass, who was one of the greatest orators of the time, delivered a speech that is now referred to as "What to the Slave is the 4th of July." This speech was delivered in the Corinthian Hall in Rochester, New York. While addressing the significance of Independence Day, he also shed some light to the fact that not all Americans were in fact free. In fact, he went so far to say that slaves owed nothing to and had no positive feelings towards the founding of the United States. He says, "What have I, or those I represent, to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of the political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? What to the American slave is your 4th of July?" I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is a constant victim. Douglass boldly proclaimed that American leaders, if they believed that slaves were men, then they should be treated as such. And as a Christian, Frederick Douglass believed that true Christians should not stand idly by while the rights and liberties of others were being stripped away. At the time, churches had turned a blind eye to the mistreatment of the enslaved and the oppressed. Too many people were on the wrong side of history, standing behind slavery and supported the continuance of this institution. If you haven't seen or read this moving speech, I've linked it down below for your review. So, Independence Day was celebrated by many, but not everyone was free. There was the Emancipation Proclamation that was made in 1862, where Abraham Lincoln officially outlawed slavery. But it wasn't until June 19th of 1865 that over 200,000 slaves were made aware of their freedom. For over 2 years, they could have been free and enjoying their freedom, but they weren't told about that freedom that was available to them until much, much later. Even still today, slavery exists in the world. When we think about trafficking of women and children, we still have a lot of work to do when it comes to eradicating these things. This begs the question, are you truly free? While you may not be in physical bondage like I've just talked about, you're certainly a slave in the spiritual sense. The Bible shows us that we're either a slave to sin or we're a slave to Christ. Freedom is determined by who your master is. John 8:34, Jesus says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, everyone who practices sin is a slave to sin." The Apostle Paul puts it this way, "Don't you know that if you offer yourselves to someone as an obedient slave, you are slaves to the one you obey, either of sin leading to death or obedience leading to righteousness?" When sin is our master, we just simply can't resist it. And it's only by the power of the finished work of Jesus Christ on the cross that we can overcome the power of sin. Paul goes on to say, "But thank God that although you used to be slaves of sin, you obeyed from the heart the pattern of teaching to which you were handed over, and having been set free from sin, you became enslaved to righteousness." God commands us not to be driven by or be slaves to our bodies. We should not give into our lusts or our urges. 1 Corinthians 6:19 says, don't you know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. So glorify God with your body. Because Christ gave up his life on the cross for us, we are set free from the penalty of sin, and we're no longer slaves to it. We are free from the power of sin because of the power that we have through the Holy Spirit. Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, if you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. They answered him, we're offspring of Abraham and have never been enslaved to anyone. How is it that you say you will become free? And Jesus answered them, truly, truly, I say to you, everyone who practices sin is a slave to sin. The slave does not remain in the house forever. The Son remains forever. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. As you gather together with your friends and family this weekend, celebrating the liberties that we have in this great nation, I hope that you'll also consider the freedom that is provided through Christ. This, brothers and sisters, is the ultimate freedom. As great as this country is nothing compared to the kingdom of heaven. Many of you still live in bondage for the things that Christ has already died for. There is no need for you to continue to live that way. Accept Christ and be set free.